Hi everyone, my name is Chef Alexis Bouillet and I am Chef Manuel Bouillet, and today we are going to present you the Cointreau mango charlotte. So if you are ready, let's get started. So then we are gonna go for step number one, which is the Japanese sponge for the mango Cointreau charlotte. So basically I have here already into the saucepan my milk and also the butter. We have here sifted already the flour and baking powder. Then at the end we will add over here the yolks and the egg whites together to make what we call like the pâte à choux. And then on the side we have the meringue with the egg whites and the remaining sugar. So then the first part of the process is reheating milk and also the butter, and we just bring to a boil and we'll pour our mix of flour and baking powder. So when it's boiling, we stop it and we add directly our flour. And we need to mix quite quickly just to make sure we don't have any lumps. This is the base of our pâte à choux. You see we have something like nice and firm. I'm just gonna reheat it just for a few seconds just to let it dry and activate correctly the flour and baking powder. Okay, so you see now we have only one dough, and then I'm gonna transfer to a mixing bowl and cool it down to 50 degrees. At the same time Manuel will pour the eggs, and at the same time also beating the egg whites and also with the sugar to get a nice and soft meringue. Okay, so now let's get started on the meringue. So we start to whip slowly and then add the sugar progressively. On the other hand over here, you want to start to add the eggs only progressively. The choux paste at the beginning is quite firm, so then when you will add the eggs, you don't want to add too much at once, otherwise it will be very hard for you to incorporate those eggs. And the idea at the end is to keep this base warm, at least it will be nice and soft, ready to add the meringue inside. On this side we start to add the sugar progressively only when we see like the little waves on the top of our egg whites. Then progressively we'll reduce the speed as well, and then we add our sugar. Okay, so now you see our pâte à choux is nice and smooth. It's slightly softer than a regular pâte à choux because it will be much more convenient when we add the soft meringue. You see the texture on the meringue is very nice and glossy and slightly soft but firm at the same time. You can really hold the shape of it. So that means the texture is perfect to add into our pâte à choux. Okay, so now what we want to do is to add progressively our meringue. We start only with one scoop at first, and then we're gonna start to mix progressively. Over here, the original pâte à choux is quite firm compared to the meringue, so we want to dissolve it progressively. So we have a nice gesture to make sure that we keep the volume of our sponge. On this side over here, we have just prepared one sheet pan with a silicone sheet. You can use a silpat, or you can also use those brown silicone sheets. It will work pretty well. The goal by doing that is when we peel off those sheets, then it will remove the skin of the sponge, and then you have a beautiful texture. We'll help ourselves with a spatula and then spread all over the frame. Okay, so now you can see we have a very nice and smooth texture, slightly soft, so which will be much more convenient to spread evenly the sponge on our tray. So the quantity is for one tray, that means it's for 900 grams for a tray 60-40. Vas-y mon titi. Okay, let's get started. So in order to spread the frame, quite easy. We first start with the corner over here, and then we push towards the other corner. The goal when you're spreading this kind of sponge is to work with the sponge the less as possible. The more you will spread it, the less volume you will have at the end. So you need to work quite efficient when you spread it. Then we have the other corners. Also at the same time Manuel is spraying the sponge, I'm going to talk quickly about the baking process. So the baking process for this kind of sponge is pretty specific. It should be like a nice golden brown texture on the top, but at the bottom it should remain white. So to do so, we are going to bake it at 170 degrees. If your oven has a cooling fan, you can always put around like a speed 2, which is like an average, not too fast and not too low. Okay, and we'll bake it for about 50 minutes. And as soon as we remove it from the oven, it is interesting to put it on the wire rack to cool it down nicely, and we'll just store into the fridge. Okay, so at the end you should have something quite even, and then we'll just stop and then make sure that you can remove just the excess on the side of the frame, and then we'll be ready to bake. So now we're gonna go for step number 2, so which is the exotic confit. Exotic confit is composed with mango puree and passion fruit puree. So I'm gonna place right now into the saucepan. Then on the side we have the sugar and pectin. We have to combine them together in order to dissolve well the pectin into the sugar, and then we're gonna start to add them to the purees. I just want to remind you that before we add the mix of sugar and pectin, it should be slightly under 40 degrees. If you go too warm, it will create some lumps, so which is not nice. So we are just pour over it. At the end of the process, over here we'll have some gelatin mass as well. That will help to create a better texture and then also to retain the humidity inside the confit. Okay, so now we already finished the cooking process. I stop my induction and I'm gonna add the gelatin mix. They dissolve it just for a few seconds, and after we'll be able to pour 125 grams for a 5-inch ring. This ring will be for the final assembly with the sponge. Alright, so let's pour over the ring. Just try to make it as flat as possible. So this way, for this step, it's always important to cook the confit and then pour directly into the ring. So if you wait for a few more minutes, the confit will become set and it will not be so easy to get something as flat as right now. So for the remaining of the confit, I encourage you to keep it separately in a small container, the remaining, and it will be mixed with the fresh mango on the top of the charlotte. So this is the final step before the final assembly with our mousse. So we need to line the sponge into our ring. So my sponge is correctly baked and put it down. Now I'm just gonna put a baking paper and put it upside down. And as you can see, if we do the process correctly, when we remove it, we get something very nice and white. We have a nice and white color for the sponge, so that will be the outside of our cake. And then I'm gonna cut a band of 5 cm for the height, and for the length would be approximately 45 cm. Then in the center, over here, we'll have some 5-inch ring. So total for this charlotte, we will need 3 sponges. What we want to do is to apply the beautiful side, of course, inside the ring. Over here, if you have a little bit of excess, then you can just get a knife and then cut straight and keep it nice and tight at the end. So after we line the sponge on the side, then we'll be able to place our first disc at the bottom of the entremet, and then we'll be ready to pour the mousse and also the insert. Okay, so step number 4, we're gonna start the Cointreau bavaroise. When we talk about the bavaroise, first we need to have some liquids. Over here we have cream and milk together. Then on the side we'll pour half of the sugar into those two liquids, and then the remaining half can be with the yolks. Over here I will start to boil this mixture, and then I will pour half over the mix of yolks and sugar, then put everything back in the saucepan. Then we'll have to pasteurize it. When we talk about pasteurization, we have to cook it around 85 degrees Celsius. That will pasteurize the yolks, but at the same time that will bring some texture in your custard. Then at the end, we'll add our gelatin mass. Okay, so now our mixture is ready and hot. Then I will pour half over the yolks and sugar. Then we're gonna put everything back in the saucepan. And of course, we keep the remaining gelatin for the end of the process. As soon as the process is done and at 85 degrees, we just pour the gelatin over it and let it melt just for a few seconds. Then we'll be able to strain into our mixing bowl. Over here, we're not gonna use a thermometer. So what we want to have is kind of a custard cream that will get slightly thicker. So the goal is when you are actually whisking it, or you can use also a spatula, then you will see that the custard won't spin exactly the same way. If I stop stirring at the saucepan, then the mixture will keep running around. But then when the custard will be at the right temperature, then when you will stop, the custard will stop quite quickly. Okay, so now our crème anglaise has been properly cooked. Then I'm gonna add the gelatin mass. So the fact that we add the gelatin mass right now is gonna cool down right away our custard cream, and then that will cut the cooking process. So that's gonna be easy. Then on the side we're gonna strain it. So after we strain it, we need to cool down under 40 degrees before adding our Cointreau 60%. Okay, so it's always better to strain it just to make sure you have something very fine for the anglaise cream. At least you don't have any lumps or whatever it is. Okay, so we can now cool it down the base. Because our final temperature will be between 27 to 30 degrees, we can even add the Cointreau at this temperature. But just remember, always under 40 degrees if you want to for any process such as anglaise cream. So we are now ready to finalize our mousse. So we need to combine our anglaise cream that we have done earlier, and then now we're gonna whip our cream. Okay, so now our cream is ready to go. So you see the texture is kind of a yogurt texture, not too soft, not too hard, just in between. Then on the side I'm gonna scale the Cointreau to add into our cooked crème anglaise. So then we combine together anglaise and Cointreau, and we will pour this anglaise cream over the whipping cream. And then we just finalize the mix with the rubber spatula. Okay, so you see we have a nice and soft texture, not too liquid and not too firm, just the perfect texture to mold correctly for our charlotte. So then our Cointreau bavaroise mousse is ready. At the same time we unmold our exotic insert that we have done earlier. We apply a first layer which is 75 grams of mousse, just a thin layer, and then we'll finish the assembly with the second sponge, mousse, insert, and the last sponge. So just a very thin layer, so which is around half, so which is around like 30-35 grams. And then we press gently the sponge, and then we press gently the insert over the bavaroise mousse. over here you want to make it nice and straight. Press slowly. And then we're going to start to add slightly more bavaroise and we finalize with our remaining sponge. So the idea is to press the sponge down and having, let's say, around 1 cm slightly under the ring, just to make sure we can put our mango cubes mixed with the rest of the exotic confit. Then we press gently the last sponge, as you can see, slightly under the sponge. So then the assembly process is done. We can just put into the freezer until it's nice and cold. Then we'll be able to remove the ring. So this is finally our last step to finalize our mango charlotte. So the idea is just to cut a nice and fresh mango into some cubes, let's say around 1.5 cm, and to mix with the remaining of our confit. So you see we have just made our confit and it will be slightly mixed together until we get something shining and it will protect the outside of the mango cubes. So then after removing the skin, I'm gonna cut it on each side of the mango, just some nice slices. So then we take the mango and also we cut it on the side also. And then we finalize by cutting our cubes. Okay, so then our mango cubes are cutted already, and then we just mix with the remaining of the confit, just to combine them together, get something shining on the top, and also it will give some extra flavor. Alright, so now it's time to decorate our mango and Cointreau charlotte. So first, I'm gonna use a small sifter with some powdered sugar and then sprinkle all around it. So then we're gonna transfer on the board and we'll finalize to decorate with our mangoes. Okay, so then we take our mango cubes and we're gonna put them nicely on the side of the charlotte. Start first. The idea is to just have something. So the idea is to have something very generous and it looks tasty and fruity. Okay, so then to finalize this mango and Cointreau charlotte, we're gonna have some small green leaves, the lemon balm, and then we'll have some candied oranges as well. Alright, perfect. So here it is, our version about the mango Cointreau charlotte. We have a very nice and moist sponge on the outside and a very moussey texture with Cointreau 60 for the mousse, and also a nice and well for the balance with exotic mango passion fruit confit. Definitely the to-go cake for the summer. So now it is the right time for the tasting of the charlotte. Hopefully you will like it the same as us. Let's check the inside. Yeah, absolutely. Wow, nice. You want the slice? Yeah, let's go. So yeah, we have the sponges and also we have the bavaroise Cointreau mousse, and in the middle a nice insert of exotic, so we bring some freshness and little touch of sourness. Really fresh. Very simple, you know, with a sponge. A nice, of course, a nice quality for the mango, and the Cointreau really brings some extra flavor and a good balance. Yeah. We really hope you enjoyed our new version of the mango and Cointreau charlotte. Really easy to share with the family and especially for the summer days. And I hope you will enjoy with your family and friends. Cheers.